All right, my dear, it is time for some advice. Dude, I don't even like this guy. Oh my God, this relationship is the best. I love having a boyfriend. It's just so amazing. I'm airing my dirty laundry on YouTube, but that's fine. Hey friends, and welcome back. If you've never seen my face before, hey, my name is Kailin. I post videos mainly about eating disorder recovery and intuitive eating, but today we're going to be doing an advice video. What are my credentials? I'm the therapist friend. My job requires a lot of counseling. And the third one is you can take this advice, you can take it or you can leave it. The thing that matters the most at the end of the day is what you think and what you feel. So I'm in the little corner of my office, okay? I'm on my chaise. Got a nice comfortable hoodie on. Guys, this tan mark is from yesterday. I know, it's bad. I know, it's okay. I asked you guys over on Instagram to send in some situations that you needed some advice on. Some people sent me some DMs. Some people just tried to make it a little bit short and sweet inside the question box. I'm gonna go through these questions and give you some advice. So let's just start. I do like getting the scoop, getting the tea, okay? So first situation. Nobody wrote Dear Kailin, but I'm gonna start each one like that so we know it's like a new segment, okay? Dear Kailin, advice for how to respond when a friend/acquaintance talks diet culture or how they want to lose weight without coming off as rude or insensitive. It's always such a struggle, especially if you aren't close enough to tell them your past struggles. Okay, so going into this scenario, what you are asking for is like a polite way to diffuse a scenario. Some options for you. I know that this situation in general can be really, really triggering. And so one of the first options that I have for you, or the advice that I would give, is to do nothing, especially if it's just an acquaintance or just somebody that you see like once in a blue moon. I wouldn't do anything in particular in conversation with that person, especially if you feel like it's just gonna get into like some kind of debate or it's gonna be uncomfortable or something like that. When I say don't do anything, I don't mean like let yourself be abused and just let it slide and that kind of stuff. Let's see what the situation at hand and like how it plays out. If somebody is just saying one comment and it kind of drifts into the background, just leave it. Leave the room, excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. That could be to distance yourself from this person, but it could also be a perfect time to remind yourself what is true and what isn't, right? To remind yourself of what you believe. Because sometimes when we hear these kinds of comments and our eating disorder is still something that is, you know, really loud for us, we don't want to give the eating disorder any more fuel or any more ammunition based off of what these other people are saying. So again, reiterating what you believe in a private place, either after this get together or when you go to the bathroom or whatever it might be, is something that I would do to make sure that you feel safe within yourself. Option that I would say, again, for an acquaintance or like a friend of a friend, trying to make it a little bit more playful, right? So if somebody is saying, I'm starting, you know, a new diet on Monday, it's gonna be no this and no that. Also just respond in a way of saying like, I hope that that makes you happy. Not an emphasis on the weight, not an emphasis on anything, but like, oh, I hope that makes you happy. I try to like just stay a little bit farther away from that kind of stuff for my mental health or whatever it might be. If somebody asks you to elaborate, you don't have to. You don't owe anybody anything. I know it sucks to say do nothing, but it might just not be worth all of that effort in the first place. Or just always change the subject. I've done this with some friends before as well, where they will say something maybe a little bit diety and I just always change the subject and I just never really remark on what they're talking about, and people learn. Not everybody is smart, but a lot of people are. And so people will learn over time that like, oh, anytime I bring this up, Kailin like excuses herself or doesn't talk about it or doesn't acknowledge it. And so I hope that that could be a similar outcome for you. Grab a snack, we're gonna be here. Question number 2. Dear Kailin, I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years and we live together. I moved to another continent to be with him. And it's been like over a year that I've been feeling like I want to break up for good. But something is not allowing me to do so. I feel I'm pretty attached to him in a certain way, but I also want to be alone, and I get distracted when other guys give me attention, which didn't happen before. We don't need each other for any rational reason, by the way. We both work and we're both mentally okay. The thing that's bothering me, or that started bothering me, is that I love going out and traveling, but he hates going out of the house. We both work from home. Throughout the relationship, I've been trying to talk about it, and he doesn't seem to understand how important it is to me. I do travel alone and go out with friends, but there are some experiences I would like to share with my significant other, but with him, that's never going to happen. I fucking love relationship questions. I think that they are so complex, and I really want to thank you and thank everybody who sent in a relationship question in the first place. I know it takes a lot of guts to talk about, you know, family, friends, romantic relationships, and so just thank you. These videos will always be anonymous, by the way, so if you want to share something or want to be featured in another episode of like an advice video, just know that your secrets are always safe with me. I'm going to assume based off of your profile that like you're in your 20s, right? And being in a relationship in your 20s, as somebody who is also in a relationship in her 20s, I think can be a very confusing time, and a confusing time for so many reasons, because you're trying to figure out who you are, what you like, what you want your life to look like in the future, right? All of these big things that we kind of have to start figuring out in our 20s a little bit. And I would say one of the most important things in like choosing a partner and in, you know, having this relationship be really strong is to be compatible. Doesn't mean you have to be the same, doesn't mean you have to like the same things. However, if this is something that is so important to you and it's been nagging at you for a year and he hasn't really made any effort to change, it sounds like he doesn't want to put in that effort. However, listen, I'm always somebody who's going to give the benefit of the doubt to somebody else. And so when you say that you've sat down, right, and had these conversations, sometimes we can play off our feelings a little bit or describe them in a way that kind of doesn't emphasize how much pain or frustration or anger or resentment. And resentment is actually the key here, because I do think that if you stay with somebody who doesn't want to do the same things as you, who doesn't have the same goals, and also doesn't see those goals as important goals, I think over time you're just going to build a resentment for one another. And for him, it could be like, oh my God, she's always asking me to do these things and I always say no, and she's just naggy. And for you, you are asking for like a bare minimum requirement of a relationship that you would like, and that would be successful. I think with relationships also in our 20s, something that we hear a lot or see a lot is like relationships ending for reasons that like really relationships should end, right? Like you cheat on one another or whatever, that relationship is kind of done with. I think that is very difficult for a lot of people in their 20s, and just in life in general, is when a relationship that you've been in for a while, right? You've been with him for 4 years, which is a long time. A lot of us, when we think about a relationship ending, we really think about something being catastrophic, right? Or something like really not working out. When I think some of the saddest breakups and ones that have to happen the most are where nothing really bad happened, you know, neither of you disrespected, you know, one another or anything like that, but you both just want different things. I think that you deserve to get what you want, and I also think that he deserves to get what he wants, which is maybe a quieter life or a more introverted life where maybe he has less friends, maybe he socializes a little bit less, and neither of those lives are like better than the other, right? Him wanting that and you wanting this doesn't make either of you a bad person. That again, if he's not scratching that itch, and if you've been thinking about breaking it off with your partner for like a year or over a year, I would say that the kick in the butt that you just need is to have this conversation, right? Is to rip it off like a Band-Aid and to actually sit down and say like, hey, I don't know if like we are compatible for the future. Like, what do you think? Because we love somebody doesn't mean that you can make all of those exceptions for them, especially when you're making so much compromise. Like, you've already compromised by moving, what did you say, continents or countries? We do insane things for love, and sometimes they work out so great. And sometimes I think we can get in our head and say, you know, well, I've been in this relationship for 4 years. Did I just waste all of my time? Did I move here for nothing? All of those questions that you may or may not have in your mind. Life is about engaging in different chapters. Everything was going to be kind of mixed around and you don't know where to go and you might have to go back home. I think looking at life as like chapters and new beginnings and fresh starts, and how life always has something exciting out for us. The courage to step away and to walk out of this relationship. Again, whatever decision you come to, whether that's working together and finding finding something that works, whether that is leaving, whatever it might be, whatever decision feels best to you and your gut is the right one, which is why I say maybe stepping away would be better given the small context that I have from your message. There's no right way, there's no easy way. It can be really hard, but to remind yourself that you're not a bad person for walking away from somebody that you once did see a future with. You're also not a bad person for asking for more or wanting more. You don't have to settle. And I don't want anybody out there who's watching these videos to think that you have to settle for somebody, because you don't. Remember, it's always better to be alone than to be with somebody who feels like they are holding you back in some way, or to be with somebody who doesn't make you happy. And I'm not saying that that's the case for this couple right here. Just some food for thought for anybody else who is watching the videos. I feel like we're just two friends sitting down, like having a cup of coffee, and so my advice and my thoughts might be all over the place. I feel like there is something stopping you. I would also be curious, what is stopping you, right? Ask yourself that question. And are you afraid? Afraid of what life is gonna look like? Are we afraid to live without him? Is that the only option? So many questions to think about. Next up, Dear Kailin, my best friend of around a year, but feels like forever, seems to be pulling away and not wanting to hang out with me as much. I don't know if she's just super busy, or if she doesn't want to be as close friends anymore, or if I'm just making it up. I feel sad and a little alone, and I feel like life is just dull as I don't have that many other friends. I'm not sure what to do to make myself feel less alone. Well, thank you so much for sending in this question. Friendships. Friendships are always really hard because we never really know what the other person is fully thinking in their head, or, you know, how close we are in their mind, and whether they have a bunch of best friends, or whether they, you know, just have few friends like us, and all of this kind of stuff. I will say that as I've gotten older, this part of me that has slowly understood that, like, having a best friend, like a best friend, just isn't that important. Good friends, friends we can rely on, that is important. Or like be all, best friend for life, like we are in it to win it. I feel like a lot of people don't actually have relationships like that, like outside of high school or outside of like college life maybe. And that's also okay. So if you're watching this video and like you don't have a best friend, or if you feel like you have some friends but like not that one go-to person, it's okay. And nobody can be everything to us, which is one thing that I want to say for this friend that you do have, right? Your best friend that might be pulling away. When you say that, you know, you're starting to feel lonely or a little bit more alone, I never want one person to be what gives us purpose, what gives us life. The feeling of feeling, you know, like special or feeling good or feeling lonely. And something that I would advise to like literally anybody in any situation is to explore your own company and being on your own, and explore hobbies and things like that. So if people are busy, or if people are going through something in their life right now, or if people just simply don't have the time, because they don't always, we aren't relying on other people to make or break our day. That you're doing this, by the way, but let's say if we're just waiting for this best friend, right, to text us or to call us, and like that's the chunk of our day where we feel so seen and so heard and so good. Try to find those things that you get within that friendship elsewhere as well. Safe with your friend. What other things can we do to make your environment feel safe? What can you say to yourself to make yourself feel safe? These are things that I think if you have these qualities within yourself, and you have hobbies, strategies yourself, and like ways to find joy in life outside of people, I think you're going to be really well set for that last part of your question, right? Like, what do I do to feel less lonely? I know it could be really hard to hear, like, to put yourself out there. It'd be hard when we say like to make new friends, right? To have a variety of friends. It's so hard making friends as an adult. So hard. And I understand that, and I have so much empathy for that, right? But anyway, the question is not how do we make friends? Well, you know what? Let's actually talk about friends here as well, because I think that it fits, because you mentioned not having like a big group of friends. Listen, I don't have a big group of friends either. I am always gonna say quality over quantity. So even if that's like 2 or 3 people that you have, even if it's your mom and your cousin, whoever it might be, having people there for you is super important. But again, not the amount of people, that's not what matters. But if this is the one friend that you've come to for everything, I think that exploring other friendships and putting yourself out there and kind of being in uncomfortable situations can actually be a really great opportunity for you to grow and for you to feel more comfortable outside of that comfort zone. When it comes to your friend in particular, and you were saying like, I don't know if it's all in my head, I don't know, if she's just busy, I don't know, like if she, all of these scenarios are running through your head, and our inner critic is going to also be there. Like, what if she doesn't want to be as close to you? What if like she doesn't like you anymore? What if all of those things? Listen, you are not a mind reader. If somebody has a problem with you, or if one of your friends is upset with you for whatever reason, it is their responsibility to come to you and say something. It's just not fair to you. And I also don't think that it's fair to your friend who maybe we are judging, or maybe we have like these assumptions that we're making, like, oh, maybe she doesn't like want to be interested in, like maybe she doesn't want to be my friend anymore. On one hand, could that be true? Sure. I mean, anything can be true in any kind of situation. But what I want us to ask is like, what evidence do we have to support that? If the only evidence that we have is maybe her being less communicative, I think what you should do is just check in on her and ask her, hey, like I realized that we haven't been chatting as much or calling as much or texting as much. I just wanted to check in to see like how you're doing, what's going on. A certain subject like this with compassion and without any prejudgments is so important, because again, we don't know what's going on in somebody else's life or in somebody else's mind. That would be the advice that I would give you to approach the situation with your friends, just to reach out and be like, hey, like I just want to catch up. Just wanted to check in to make sure, that everything is going okay for you. I'm here if you ever want to talk about anything. Say that she doesn't give you the same energy back, and that she is just being cruel to you or ghosting you or whatever it might be, then she's not worth your energy. Okay? Just to keep that in mind. But that is the advice that I would give. I get a lot of questions, Q&As about like advice of what to do for fear foods or how to face your fear foods. I have a lot of recovery content already out, and I have a playlist for it as well on YouTube. Like anything, the more you do something, the easier it becomes. So for fear foods, if you challenge like one fear food a month, you're not going to see kind of change that you would like to see in your relationship to said food, because we need more exposure. And usually when you expose something to yourself enough, it becomes less scary. I am not a strong biker, okay? But if I had biked my entire life around the city, I'd probably be more confident biking than how I feel, which is somebody who didn't drive around in the city, because I have no spatial awareness and I feel like I would have gotten hit by a car. I have more success the more I try. There's no back route alley when it comes to fear foods. You can't take a walk, you can't drink water, you can't just sit down and journal. What you need to do is actually face them head on. Anybody is telling you that there's any other way that you should be, facing your fear foods, they're lying. And you also don't have to make your fear foods into meals or into things that are super satisfying. Like you don't have to pair the cookies that you are craving with something else to make it balanced, to make it healthy, to make it a hunger cushion combo. You don't have to do that, okay? Cookies you can have just on their own. 3 cookies, 4 cookies, it's all good. Important thing is that when you're challenging your fear foods, you have them in the amount that you want, not what your brain is telling you, the amount that your body wants. If it's something that you restricted, you are going to want more of it than maybe the average person who allows themselves to have it without restriction. So if you're craving cookies every single day for months and months, let yourself have cookies every single day for months and months, and that fear will be gone. Give yourself time and be consistent is like the foolproof way. Dear Kailin, my friends are all party drinkers and I'm not, and struggling when we go out with being the lame one. All right, my dear. First things first, if your friends make you feel lame for not drinking, they're not your friends, or you need to have a serious talk with them. No friend should be pressuring you. Nobody should say like, oh, you're such a fucking loser, like for not drinking. Like no. One, I hope nobody does that. And two, that's not a friend. I want us to understand is that like we don't have to drink to have a good time, just like you don't have to do any substance of any kind to have a good time. People are reliant on like alcohol being the thing that causes them to have a good time. Let them sit and soak with that idea. You can show up and have a good time without drinking alcohol, and I think that that is really cool. For example, Are you going out on these like drinks with them and like getting fun mocktails? Like, are you also enjoying yourself? Do you want to be there? When we're talking about having a group of friends too, something that took me a while to understand is like, you don't always all have to hang out together all at the same time. You're a group with 3 other girls. I'm taking like myself and like my friend group as an example, right? So there's 4 of us. You can hang out with like one-on-one with all of them in different areas. You can invite all of them to your place for brunch. We can be the one to sort of guide some activities, for example, that I think would help you to feel like you're not always out drinking. The only thing that you're doing is drinking, and like that's the only way that your friends know how to like get together and have a good time. Dude, they're lame, okay? If that's the case, then they are lame. And we got to explore and find new friends. Ask yourself how you're talking to yourself in these situations as well, right? So say your friends don't say anything. How are you perceiving yourself, right? Are you like, oh my God, here we go drinking. I'm such a loser. Like, I'm not going to drink, right? Like, how you talk about yourself is definitely going to impact how you feel. And I'm not saying verbatim that's how you talk to yourself. I'm sure it isn't. But maybe you do have some of that present, right? Some of that negative criticism, maybe some of those judgments at yourself for not drinking. I think that that would be an interesting exploration for you to do. Come up with new hangouts. Ask people to meet you for coffee or for brunch or something like that. Invite people over to your flat or something if you have space, or to your home. Ask to go to like a ceramics class, or be like, hey, let's all bring like a dish and meet and have like a picnic in the park or something. Again, it depends on where you live. It depends on what you like to do. Let's go see a movie. Like, all of those kinds of things that you can do. And if your friends are only interested in drinking and they're not interested in actually spending time with you when you suggest to do things, again, I'm not gonna bullshit you. They don't sound like good friends. Somebody who doesn't bullshit when it comes to friends and relationships, I will tell you if you ask me. Okay, you asked me. We asked for this, okay? Yeah, that would be my advice, to do other activities, to do a little bit of introspection with yourself, and also like a little inventory of your friends. Dogs are up, they are barking. How your friends make you feel about the whole situation, if you feel supported, and if there's something that your friends can do to make you feel more included, like maybe not going to a bar all the time, then tell them. We should be able to have hard and difficult conversations with friends, especially friends that we really want in our life and that we really care about. Dear Kailin, I feel like I miss an ex-boyfriend who was actually really toxic when I feel lonely. I think that a spot that so many other people find themselves in as well. You're not alone in that. As human beings, we like community. We like to have support. We like to have people around us. We like to feel loved. When we feel lonely, the people where we got like that quick fix from, even if they didn't treat us well all the time, they're gonna be like our go-to of where we want to return to. Thing that I want you to remind yourself when you do feel lonely, how that partner that you are talking about made you feel the majority of the time. When we miss somebody, we're only gonna be remembering the good stuff in the moment. We're gonna be remembering like the cuddles on the couch when we watched the movies, and like we didn't feel alone, and like we had that physical contact. Maybe sometimes we're thinking about the sex if it was really good. Who knows, right? When we're feeling lonely. But something that we usually don't think about is all of the bad that came with that. I see this a lot too when people are looking at like older photos of themselves in like a sicker body or something like that, and people are like, oh my God, I looked so much better. I thought I looked so much better. This is what I thought of my body then, etc. Somebody to describe how they actually feel in that photo. It's usually, I felt sick, I felt dizzy, I felt unhappy, I felt irritable, I felt like I was faking my smile. And so here, when we are talking about that ex-boyfriend as well, I think what's important in those moments that you feel lonely is also to highlight those things that he did that really hurt you. Going down those kinds of paths are not helpful all the time. We're thinking about the good and we're entertaining like possibly having him come back. Remember everything that he did. You broke up for a reason, right? And you got out for a reason. Toxic people are very, very good at making you feel like you need to stay, which is why I always compare having an eating disorder kind of like a toxic partner, right? Where some parts of it feels so good and you want to stay, and then the other parts you can't justify. Parts in how he treated you, and if he was toxic or if he was abusive or he was unkind, doesn't get a second chance with that. And will you actually feel less lonely? Or are we just gonna have a warm body that's in our presence that in the end is going to make us feel way more lonely with having somebody in the house? A toxic partner and somebody who is not fully trustworthy or not fully yours end up just making us feel more stress and more alone. Loneliness is not just a feeling that we have when we are like by ourselves, but also we can feel lonely in a room full of people. We've all heard that saying before. Sounds like we need, right, when you are lonely and things like that, is to also have a sense of worth and a sense of, you know, hobbies and objectives and things like that outside dating. We don't want to try to find a new relationship to fill that empty void that we have. And a partner should not complete you. A partner should just be an addition to like who you are as a person, an addition to your life, but not make or break who you are or how you feel about yourself. Dating yourself, that sounds like the perfect opportunity right now. Take yourself out on dates, go and enjoy yourself, pamper yourself, get your nails done, get your hair done, whatever it might be, whatever you really enjoy, a shopping spree. Like, this goes to anybody. Your girlfriend broke up with you, your boyfriend broke up with you. Listen, buying yourself a little treat usually always makes you feel better. When we are thinking about him in those moments, remind yourself of the bad, remind yourself why you're not together anymore, and remind yourself why that was a good decision. Be proud of yourself. Just some food for thought. And that I do is like to flip the script. So for example, if one of your best friends was dating this guy, would you be happy for them? Would you think that they were so happy? Or would you be like, red flag, run away? Somebody else in your situation. And sometimes you can see what you're actually feeling when you remove yourself. That would be my advice for that. One thing that I got so much of was sex and weight gain, right? Like how to feel confident, how to go on top, all of these kinds of questions. And I think I might make like an entire sex advice video. Sex is gonna look different for everybody, but like confidence and things like that. But I will be honest, when addressing this kind of question of like gaining weight and how to feel confident and everything like that, it's something that I still struggle with myself, right? Like I recently gained weight, and yeah, I think that it is a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. And I think that it's uncomfortable not because we've gained weight, but because we're like not used to moving this like new body of ours, right? Especially maybe when we are used to being in a smaller body or whatever it might be. Your partner makes you feel safe and your partner makes you feel comfortable. If your partner comments on your body, fuck that person. Get them the fuck away from you. I'm saying this like again with only love in my heart for you. If you are with somebody who criticizes your body, who points out certain flaws, who says, oh, like you were more attractive before, oh, you're gaining weight and I'm worried about your health, fuck them figuratively and get them out of your house, out of your place, out of your life, because you don't deserve to ever be spoken to by a partner that way. No partner has any say over your body or what you do to your hair, whether you get tattoos, whether you do your nails, whatever. Nobody that you're dating, no man, nobody ever gonna tell you what to do with your body. Okay, we're in agreement. And if your partner right now is doing those things, what are we gonna do? Break up. Woo! Awesome, awesome, awesome. One thing that I would first say is like before sex and everything like that, if that is something that you're trying to get more comfortable with, and like sex can also just mean like intimacy, right? Like not wearing clothing around your partner instead of like hiding and things like that, would be to work in increments and to work with yourself and to work with baby steps almost, right? So for example, do you hide from your own body? If you're showering, are you like trying not to look at your body? You're naked maybe sometimes, and like again, you're avoiding the mirror, like you run into the bathroom to pee and like then you go back out and like you didn't look at yourself at all. If you are afraid of your body, you are going to be afraid to share your body with other people. And sex is a very intimate thing. It's a very special thing. Or can be, I guess, depending on the person. But you've got to get comfortable with yourself first. And how you can do that, I mean, is like exposure therapy. For example, let's say like you're wearing a t-shirt and like your underwear around the house or the apartment instead of wearing like the sweatpants and the sweater that you would usually wear, right? Or another idea that I think sometimes helps people feel really sexy is that like if you are somebody who enjoys wearing lingerie, or if you're somebody who's like never worn it before because you didn't give yourself the opportunity to explore it, I would say that that could be a layer that makes you feel sexy. Actually maybe stay on while you are working up your courage to be naked in front of your partner, or to feel like a lot more fluid and a lot more free. Your partner knows what you look like. Your partner knows if you've got a stomach. Your partner knows if you've got rolls. Your partner knows these kinds of things, and they want to be with you if you're a catch, and they still think that you're sexy. All in your head. And so our game here is to get more comfortable with yourself. Again, even if that's exploring like sexual pleasure on your own or something like that, if that's exploring different kinds of lingerie and different kinds of clothing that you can wear around the house. And if it's, for example, telling yourself, I'm gonna change in front of my partner today. Like maybe you live together and maybe you always change in the bathroom, or maybe you always change with like turning your back towards them. Maybe the way that you work up your confidence in bed is actually not in bed but is out of it. Giving yourself those compliments, making sure we're not shying away or hiding. Of course, being really in the moment with your partner and trying to not focus on how your body is looking, because do you think your partner's really there with you and thinking like, how is this body looking? No, they are thinking, wow, I am so lucky. Ooh, I'm getting laid, whatever it might be, but like all in good things. Like, my girl is so sexy, whatever. And I know I'm using like a lot of heterosexual language right now, by the way, and I mean this to be applied to everybody. I feel like I'm just talking from like my own perspective right now, being in a heterosexual relationship. So I think that that's why that's my default currently, whatever that might look like, whatever clothing that might look like, whatever steps that might look like. But I will say, like, if you want to get more confident in bed, you've got to be confident outside of it. Confidence is also a mindset. Thinness doesn't equal confidence, just like weight gain doesn't equal the opposite of confidence, like to be unconfident in something. If you tell yourself that weight gain is a bad thing and then you gain weight, obviously you're going to feel like you did something bad. You tell yourself that gaining weight is natural and normal and okay and very human. If that were to happen, maybe it could feel a little bit jarring at first, because again, it's a body that maybe doesn't feel like our own right away, or it takes time to feel like our own again. We're not going to feel that same kind of shame or that same kind of guilt because of the thoughts that you were saying. To watch the way that we talk about bodies, to watch the way you discuss your own body, to look at the ways that you describe weight gain. Is it something that you tell people and you're like, oh, I gained weight, like now I have to get new clothes? And of course you're gonna feel like crap. So my advice is to do outside work, to do exposure therapy with certain clothes, experiment seeing your body more in different angles yourself, right? So if you're just at home by yourself, you can watch TV like in your bra and underwear or whatever you're wearing, or just your boxers, or in nothing. That might be uncomfortable. It might feel uncomfortable to feel your legs touch. It might be uncomfortable to feel, rolls in your body. But all of those things are normal. So to remind yourself, like, weight gain is a natural thing, and the person who is with you is not with you just because of your body. And if they show those true colors to us, we thank them and we leave. Next up, we've got another friendship question. Dear Kailin, I have a friend who is super dominating and I would like to cut her from my life, but she is super unstable. It just tires me how I exist only when she needs me. Dude, I've fucking been in your place before. Just have to say that it is a very exhausting place to be in. Sending you like so many hugs, proud of you. I'm here for you. I hear you, okay? Cutting out somebody from our life is always hard, no matter how stable or unstable they are. A lot of people, when we're dealing with instability, and again, these are gonna be presumptions on my part, so take what you will, but I have definitely been in situations where somebody is like, oh, like, I'm so lonely, if another person leaves, like, I'm gonna kill myself or something like that. I know this is a heavy topic, but when we are talking about somebody who is unstable, a lot of the time we are talking about suicide ideation or people hurting themselves or something like that. What somebody does to themselves is not your responsibility. It is not your responsibility to keep somebody from hurting themselves. It is not your responsibility to keep somebody sane or to keep somebody stable. I understand that we have a lot more pressure on us because we don't want anything bad to happen. And let's say said person does make those threats that I described at the beginning, or insinuates them in some kind of way. My recommendation is to always give that responsibility to somebody who is much closer to said person. So for example, if this person is talking to you and they are talking about, feeling super unstable, maybe leaving or whatever it might be, but that's something that, again, it's not your job to fix. It's not your job to heal that person. Maybe sending a message to this person's partner if they have one, or to this person's parents or guardian, right? Again, if they don't have a super tumultuous relationship with them, or somebody that just might be closer. If you get a call in the middle of the night and somebody is like, hey, come here because X, Y, and Z, you call the police and you give them their location. It's not your responsibility to be that savior for somebody. And if anybody ever makes you feel like that's your responsibility, it's very manipulative and it is unfair to you. It's also just simply untrue. When we are just talking about distancing ourselves from a friend, and maybe these threats aren't present, but she is a little bit unstable, it's really important for those like controlling aspects that you're talking about to not give into those. She's controlling of who you can talk to, of when you can talk to her, of all these kinds of things. I basically want you to not listen. We are hit with that controlling energy, right? Something that we can say back is sort of like, I understand that, you know, is upsetting to you, or, you know, I hear that you are upset or whatever it might be. However, I can't stop doing X, Y, and Z just because it makes you uncomfortable, or doing X, Y, and Z makes me happy, or seeing X, Y, whatever. Kind of position yourself in that conversation. What she says next is going to dictate what you do. We are not mind readers, you know, so we don't know how she could react to some kind of information like that. But whatever her reaction is not your responsibility. Say she's mad at you and she's cussing you out and she yells. Say she takes it totally fine, it's like no problem, and isn't controlling about it at all. Great. It didn't go in the way that we thought. But if your goal is to ultimately distance yourself away from her, we have two options. We have the slow fade away, and we have the being honest. Which one you feel works best for you, but is also most compatible with your friend. And again, even if she is unstable, it's really gonna depend on the person. Hey, you know, I think we have some great times together, great memories together, all of that kind of stuff, whatever you want to say. But I've realized, right, that I just need to put a little bit more distance between us right now and focus on myself. And let's just choose the option of peace and say that we don't have to go through all of that. If she's pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, then sure, if you want, you can say, hey, like, this is just feeling a little bit overwhelming to me, and this kind of energy is what I don't like within our friendship, right? For example. The other option is to go slow, maybe waiting longer to get back to somebody, not talking to her every day. And again, you're doing this with purpose. And the purpose that we're doing this is not to make them feel alone, or to make her feel like you're not there, that you're unsafe, or that there's anything going on, but it's just to go to show that you are not there when she calls or beckons you like this. You are not a pet. And I don't even think pets should be like that either. But that slow fade away, a lot of the time people get the gist on their own. It could be a less painful way than like the harsh truth, but that would be my advice for you. You start to say, you do this and you do that and you are the reason for this, etc. Somebody's always gonna get defensive. I always stick with I language, right? I feel like a little bit overwhelmed with this friendship and I just don't think that it suits me better, versus you are controlling and I don't wanna be your friend anymore. Don't shoot the messenger, right? You can do whatever you wanna do, but I would say that one option, you're probably going to get a better reaction than pointing the finger at somebody and using like second person language. Dear Kailin, this guy I like seems to have broken up with his girlfriend. We get along great. How do I confirm that and show interest? Ah, my sweet friend. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you and say, if somebody just got out of their relationship, or like if you're not even sure if they just got out of it, it's probably not the right time. Just fresh out of a relationship, jumping into another one, I think can lead you to be disappointed, and maybe can just lead to the situation not actually panning out the way that you would like that situation to pan out. It could be an opportunity to continue to get to know each other as friends, right? So even to know if, you know, if he has this girlfriend or whatever it might be, or is still with her, I think it could be a great idea to kind of, well, great idea. I think it could be an idea, you know, if you are already talking to him, to be like, hey, you know, like, how are you doing? How are things going with X, Y, and Z, right? Like, if your foundation is going to be friends, then friends can ask questions like that. Personally, from my, like, if you're asking for my advice, I wouldn't be making a move. I wouldn't be telling him that I like him or that I have liked him for a very long time or anything like that. I just don't think that it's fair to him. As the following, you know, weeks and months and things sort of roll along, of course, I think that saying how you feel can be really like a very important thing, you know, both for you and for him to hear. Maybe he's in love with you. We don't know what's going on, right? The world is full of these surprises. But to me, I find it distasteful to enter into like right after. I think that that can be coming off really strong. And I also think that, again, if you like him, we want to be just some kind of like rebound relationship to where he still has strong feelings for his ex. I'm sure if I had more details and more information, I could maybe give you different kinds of advice. Me, I would say just focus on being his friend, focus on, you know, like on your life, on everything that is going on, while also keeping in contact with him. Maybe things over time organically are going to kind of pan out, because let's say like you're not super great friends right now, and I would say maybe not, because you don't even know if he's with his girlfriend or not, right? But it's a perfect opportunity to become closer, to grow closer as friends. Let's say you get to know him and you're like, dude, I don't even like this guy, you know? It could be just a fun experiment to see. When he gets right out of a relationship and like sliding into their DMs, it's, for me, it feels wrong, and it feels a little bit sticky. It's just my opinion, you know? But that is what I would say. I would say don't really make a move, don't really tell him that you like him. I just feel like it's too soon, too fast for him, and it can feel like overwhelming. And also not giving him a chance to even like process the end of maybe a long relationship or however long that was. So give him time, be his friend, and if things feel right, then they will happen with time. Dear Kailin, I don't even know where to start with romantic relationships after recovery. I feel like I'm so behind. I think that there are so many people who feel behind in life. Like, even removing the romantic relationship aspect out of this question, this is something that I hear all the time, not only from my clients, but also from my friends and also from myself, where sometimes I'm like, dude, I'm turning 27 this year. I don't have any big savings. I don't like have my life fully put together. And then I see some people that I graduated like high school with, and I'm like, damn, they're fucking like doctors and shit, and they're traveling the world. I don't know anything about anybody or whatever somebody puts on social media. And let's talk about the romantic partner, right? You can have somebody who posts all the time with their boyfriend and they're lovey-dovey and they're like, oh my God, this relationship is the best. I love having a boyfriend. It's just so amazing. Whatever. We actually know what that relationship is like. We don't. So many people, we hear about these relationships and then like they break up with said boyfriend, and then like you get together and you're like, that's what your relationship was like? Like you begged a man to like brush his teeth and wipe his ass? Like that's pretty fucking sad. What I'm trying to get at is this feeling of like being behind is a feeling that is only self-imposed by you. If anybody makes you feel behind for like not having ever kissed somebody or not having had sex or not ever having a boyfriend or partner, like all of those kinds of things, sounds like they project all of their worth and all of their needs into their own relationships anyway. Like if somebody is so flabbergasted by the fact that like you haven't had sex, for example, at a certain age, isn't it weird why they're so interested in your sex life in the first place? Like it's weird, right? And as you mentioned in your message, you were hinting mainly at like recovery being that thing that sort of makes all of this feel like we're behind and things like that. Eating disorders, as we know, can take away a lot from our life. They can take away opportunities like dating and making friends and things like that. If we always look at it as a deficit, I think that we're always going to try to ask ourselves, like, what if this happened? What if that happened? Instead of just seeing it as that, like, we did lose those things. But what we didn't lose was like a timeline that we were meant to be on, right? Because again, when it comes to those timelines and those blueprints, everybody's timeline is different. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that like everybody had their first kiss at the same age and did like everything sexually at the same age and like bought their first house at the same age and like got married at the same age if they chose to get married, all of this kinds of thing. Life would be so boring, right? And so if you feel behind, you have to be the one to tell yourself, I'm not behind. I took time to heal myself. I took time to work to make sure that I was in a nice and positive place before going into this relationship. Listen, I'm not one of those people who is like, everything happens for a reason. No, some things just fucking suck and like there's no rhyme or reason, right? If I could choose to have like not gone through an eating disorder, of course, I think that that would be a choice that many people would pick themselves. However, with the fact that we can't change our history, that we can't change our blueprint, and we can't change our past, one thing that I want us to look at now is like, again, feeling behind who? Behind your friend? Behind your sister? Behind like your next door neighbor? It's not a race with anybody. Just like somebody can get married when they're 20 and then they realize that that's not the love of their life when they're like 35 or 40 and get divorced. When they're 70, they realize this. You're never behind. Taking your time or being sure about something is not a behavior that should be seen as something that is wrong or something that is shameful. Some people have their first relationship when they're like 12, and some people have their first relationship when they're 52 or maybe even older. In fact, I know people who like got married in their 80s for like the first time. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen for you, but I'm just saying that we can't rush love. We can't rush romance. We can't rush and try to find the right person. You can take any old Joe off the street, but you don't deserve any old Joe off the street. You deserve what you want and the energy that you put out. And so if it takes a while to find that, so be it. You are worth the wait. And so is this person, hopefully. You are not behind. You are not behind in your job. You are not behind in life. What does it even mean to be behind in life? The goal in their life is to have a family, right? Like that's their number one goal, is like, I want to be a mom, I want to have a family. Other people, it could be like, I want to run my own business, I want to run my successful business. That doesn't mean that one of their goals is better than the other. Blueprints are different, just like your blueprints are different than mine or anybody else's. I have so many more advice questions, but my editor stuff is already gonna kill me because I think I have like an hour of footage already. I am a chatty Cathy. 2 more. And then we're gonna call it a day. And if you liked this style of video, then maybe we will do a part 2, a little series over here on my channel. Dear Kailin, my parents expect me to invite my sister, who I've chosen not to have in my life, to my daughter's 3rd birthday. I don't want to create a rift between myself and my parents, but I feel like what I think is best for my family isn't being honored. I'm at a loss of what to do. Stand my ground or bend to not cause more problems. My sweet friend, I'm so sorry that you are in this position in the first place. Having rocky relationships with family members is something that I definitely have some experience with myself. And I also know that there's not one right choice. But what I will say is, if you made the choice at one point to distance yourself from your sister and to cut her out of your life and like your family's life and your little girl's life, I know that you made that decision with a lot of thought. That's not a decision that we come to just because, like, hey, I think that this would be fun. We're not going to do that. And so I will say again, even though I don't know the context of why you're not talking to your sister, I don't really need to know that context right now. I know it would have to be something that is really fucking bad, or just something that you cannot live with anymore. And I do want to say that I have maybe a little bit of spicier advice for this question. And what I mean by that is, like, I don't think that it is a child's responsibility to repair, to mend a relationship with their parents, right? So for example, if your decision to not invite your sister, and if you stick with that because that is what you feel most comfortable with, and your parents have a problem with that, I don't really see how it's your problem. And listen, I know parents are gonna make a problem that they feel your problem, especially depending on the kind of parents that you do have. They're pressuring you a little bit to invite your sister is already telling me a little bit of what I need to know about them, even though it's telling me very little. As a human being, you're not responsible for the emotions of other people. And you're a mother now, right? And you have a young daughter. And I do think that putting yourself and your family first is putting you and your daughter first, because that is your main priority right now. That is your future. That is, you know, for her future, etc. My battery just died. Let's start off where I was before, okay? So this is your daughter's 3rd birthday party. You, as her mom, gets to decide who is going to be there. You don't have to invite your sister. Especially if you're gonna be on edge, especially if you're gonna be upset, especially if you're not gonna be comfortable in your own home or at your daughter's 3rd birthday. You want to be present and you want to feel good. I know everybody has different values when it comes to family, and there are some people who think family is like the most important thing. I'm not one of those people, which is why my advice might be different from maybe what you expect or maybe what you want to hear, and that's why I'm not always right. What I say is, of course, not the be-all end-all, but I don't think that there's any shame in not inviting your sister and having your parents deal with their own emotions after. Let them do it. They don't have a right to yell at you. You are a full-grown adult. What your job is just to have those strong boundaries that you want to have in place. If your parents want to have a place in your life and a place in their granddaughter's life, then they have to respect you and your choices. And it's going to be super easy to have these kinds of conversations, but I would not bend. I would not bend to be complacent or to please other people. If, you know, let's say your sister's name is Kim. Kim wants to talk to me, tell her that she can talk to me herself. Like, especially if your parents are trying to talk to you through her. Like, in the most simplest way, I would say, don't bend. Maintain your boundaries. If your parents have difficulty with that, don't make it your problem. And they're moping and everything like that and like being a huge party pooper at a 30-year-old's birthday party, get somebody else to ask them to leave. Family are people who show up for you when you need them. Family are people who you can lean on and who lean on you. Family should make you feel good and make you feel safe. Family should not make you feel triggered and overwhelmed and argumentative. I'm somebody who is a big fan of chosen family and like saying that we choose even your family members, right? Like, just because you're born into this family, it still can be a pick and mix. You can still choose people that you want to talk to within your family and let go of those that aren't important or make you feel unimportant. That's something that I've done. I don't talk to everybody in my family, and I don't have to. Just like you don't have to. Okay, we're gonna end with a sexual one. So if this is not something that you wanna hear, that's okay. Just click out and then maybe come back to another video. Dear Kailin, I've been with my boyfriend for 6 months and everything seems really great. We've had sex, which has been pretty good, and I've gone down on him multiple times. However, he has not gone down on me once. I don't know how to bring this up because it still feels so fresh and so new without hurting his feelings. What do I do? I think that when we are talking about heterosexual sex, like between a man and a woman, when we're thinking of like penetration being what sex is in this case, I think that a lot of people and a lot of boys are conditioned to think of sex as like them putting their wee in and like coming, right? And like, and that's not me trying to like sum up men like one sentence or anything like that. I feel like a lot of men aren't focused on women's pleasure. And for them, sometimes it's like the act of sex is done when they are done. If you're at this point, right, where you are having sex with somebody, I think that it's super important to be at that level where we can also communicate with said person. Whether something feels really good, whether something feels not so good, those are kinds of things that phrasing them in a way of like, hey, you suck, that sucks so bad, like you suck, right? Like we're not trying to do this in a way that like hurts somebody's feelings. It like a priority almost. So I'll give you an example, right? Like to be like, hey babe, like I was thinking, you know, I feel like this is like me giving sexual advice. Like again, take this with a grain of salt, but let's just say that maybe he's nervous, maybe he's never done it before, whatever. Still no excuse in my mind, but let's just say that that's the case. You know, why don't we come over, we can shower together, and then like we can, you know, do things and imply like the foreplay. Ask, right? To be like, hey, like I really I feel like I'm on like a sex hotline right now. I really want you there, baby. No, but like I have an idea, like what do you think, kind of thing. If he's grossed out by it, like no man should be grossed out by that, okay? It's very natural, it's very normal, everything like that. A man who wants to be with you should enjoy a little chow down every now and then, you know what I'm saying? But either way, I'm getting red, okay? But there's no TMI. That is what I said with these questions. There's no TMI. You know, like I want to really focus on foreplay today. Like, how does that sound for you, right? Like I'll start and then maybe like it's your turn kind of vibe, or whichever one you want to do. For me, if I was in your position, I would be like, hey, like I'm airing my dirty laundry on YouTube, but that's fine. But I would just ask, like maybe not that way, but I would just ask like in like a playful way. I wouldn't be making like, hey, you never do this, like is there something wrong with you? I would say like, again, hints at it. If you are hit with like a no, girl, pack up your shit and leave. Because if a man is not prioritizing a woman's pleasure, or whoever they're with in this case, but in this case we're talking about you, right? I don't think that that's it. I just don't think that that's it. Okay, say like if it's just that, I think the biggest thing with like all relationships is just communication, and asking for things because you want them is not a bad thing, is not a sinful thing. I see this so much more with like women than with men, which I think is like makes sense given the way that we're raised. But I see like where women, like their prerogative with sex is like to pleasure the man. You are also there to get pleasure. Honey, let's switch things up a little bit. You're becoming a little bit more demanding in the bedroom or not, that's okay. You are allowed to experiment that way. Not everybody is compatible sexually. Not everybody is compatible at all, especially if he doesn't want to do those things, for example. But I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and just assume maybe he's never done it before, maybe he's scared, maybe he doesn't know how to, you know, like whatever. Or maybe he just doesn't think about it. Put it on his radar a little bit, and I'm sure good things will come out of it. And again, if they don't, well then you update me, you send me a DM, and we're gonna talk a little smack about that guy, okay? That is going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you thought about this video, if you enjoyed it, if you like advice questions like this, especially because not all of them have to do with recovery. In fact, a lot of them had to do with just like life. Let me know if you like hearing about random people's scenarios and where they're at, and maybe we can do this another time. So fun to do. So thank you so much. Don't be afraid to leave a kind comment down below. Let me know if there are any videos that you would like to see in particular, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, friends.